quantum field theory. But I think Yvonne was very special because she did work on Einstein's theory, and I believe this was the reason that she had a special opportunity to actually talk to Einstein in 1951 and 52 when she was working, or just finished her PhD thesis. So, when I first learned about this, I was totally fascinated. I thought this is the one opportunity we will have to meet someone who has actually interacted with Einstein. So I'm very happy and very grateful that you have agreed to share with us some of those memories of those days in Princeton in 1951 and 52. Okay.
Thank you, Herman. I'm a bit ashamed that my only merit to have been invited here, but maybe not quite the only one, because I would have been happy to be here anyway, to meet some old friends. Unfortunately, most of my old friends are now no more, but my merit is as I'm a survivor, so old enough to have met Einstein when he was already an old man and me a young woman, and we had very good contact, in fact. So I met Einstein in 1951 at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton. I was making there a postdoctoral stay as assistant to the great French mathematician Jean Leray, a part-time permanent professor at the IAS. Since now I have the pleasure to be a host at the IHES, I have a tendency to mix initials. But then in 1951, that was the IAS. In fact, I had defended a thesis on general relativity under the official direction of André Wichnerowicz. I had begun to work on this interesting subject, studying the nice little book by Wichnerowicz, Global Problème globaux en relativité, small book, which was in fact his thesis, made under the direction of Georges Darbois. But it was Jean Leray who encouraged me to attack the problem of the existence of solutions of the Einstein equations, taking given initial values, without assuming their analyticity, as was done before by Georges Darbois, for instance, already. So, when I told Wichnerowicz the Leray suggestion, he said, it's too difficult for a beginner. In fact, it was not so difficult. As you all know, in harmonic coordinates, called then isotherm, introduced by Lanczos, de Donder, and Georges Darbois, the Einstein equations in vacuum look like a system of quasi-diagonal, quasi-linear system of second-order partial differential equations, which are hyperbolic for a Lorentzian metric. I was struggling with paper by Schauder, who collaborated with Leray at the green theory, that Leray had indicated to me to look at this problem. Leray Schauder paper were written just before the war. He was a Polish Jew and died during the war, was killed during the war. And so this paper was rather a sketch of a solution of the Cauchy problem by energy estimates method. I was struggling with this sketch, and moreover I did not know German. I had studied English at school, which was not so bad after all. When I met by chance, looking at literature, an article written in French by the great Russian mathematician Serge Sobolev. Sobolev constructed elementary kernels for such one linear hyperbolic equation. In this article, Sobolev introduces generalized function, now often called Schwarz distributions. He uses the elementary kernel he obtains to construct a solution of the Cauchy problem. In fact, I notice that Sobolev reasoning in this last step is not quite correct. That's maybe perhaps why he didn't popularize this paper much, though he had introduced there this generalized function. In fact, the convolution he uses proves uniqueness, but not existence of the solution. However, Sobolev ideas allowed me to write nonlinear integral equations for the system of quasi-linear hyperbolic differential equation, partial differential equation. To write for such system nonlinear integral equations which have locally timed solution in space of functions with a finite number of derivatives. At that time, I was happy with obtaining a finite number. I didn't care of really, I took the simplest way to be sure that the solution I constructed was indeed a solution, a unique solution of the system. I didn't care about the number of derivatives. I don't even remember exactly what I supposed then, maybe 7 partial differential. Since then, it has been improved along the year by myself at first, but not so much. Finally, recently, by Kleinerman and Romanowski. Very nice. So this time, I proved a constructive method to obtain solutions of such quasi-linear systems of hyperbolic differential equation of second order in space of functions with CK C7. I showed that this solution satisfies the Cauchy problem for the quasi-linear Einstein equations in harmonic coordinates. I also proved that a solution in harmonic coordinates satisfies the full Einstein equation if the initial data satisfy 4 conditions, now called the constraints. I just completed the proof of existence, uniqueness, and also propagation of gravitation with the speed of light, which seems to me sufficient proof for the existence of gravitational waves, since solution is the discontinuity, or the symmetry, will propagate with the speed of light. That's a gravitational wave. Of course, I don't criticize the work being done now on gravitational wave, theoretical as well as experimental. That's many developments. But existence of gravitational waves seems to be evident due to Property solution. So, I was at the Institute, to go back in 1951, I was the assistant of Professor Leray, in fact, at the Institute for Advanced Study. And Leray was giving at the Institute a course on his current work, which was the Cauchy problem for general system of hyperbolic differential equations. Not second order, but general hyperbolic differential equations. In fact, he uses in that energy methods. In fact, he finds energy for these higher order differential equations. And in fact, his results could be applied just to the system of Einstein equations in harmonic coordinates, and he will give the existence theorem proved. In fact, he will now Sobolev spaces instead of CK spaces, and this I will use eventually. But in fact, Leray had encouraged me to complete my proof by the constructive method, so I was a bit disappointed when I saw his very general result, where my existence theorem was just a particular case, but he said, no, continue your method. My method, of course, well, Sobolev idea does not apply to higher order, to general systems. You cannot construct elementary kernels just by, I won't give you a course on partial differential equation. So Leray insisted that I should complete my proof. In fact, he had insisted before, since when I arrived at the Institute for Advanced Study, my thesis had been defended in France. But of course I was attending the course of Leray, and that's where Einstein comes in. We were leaving together the classroom when we met Einstein walking toward his office. Leray and Einstein knew each other, and Leray introduced me to Einstein, saying that I had defended a thesis on general relativity directed by Lichner-Horwitz. It was not absolutely correct, but it was my official master, and in fact he has also taught me a lot, Lichner-Horwitz. Leray said also that I was the daughter of the physicist Georges Brua, who had died in a Nazi concentration camp. Both facts, my work on general relativity and my physicist father, both facts appealed to Einstein's sympathy. Einstein knew Lichner-Horwitz's name and an esteem for him. Indeed, Lichner-Horwitz had proved a conjecture dear to Einstein's heart, namely that in a stationary spacetime with asymptotically Euclidean space, regular stationary, so existing for an infinite time, of course, is the Minkowski spacetime, if it satisfies the vacuum-Einstein equation. Einstein himself, in collaboration with Pauli, had proved the theorem, the conjecture, in the particular case of static spacetimes. The stationary case is more subtle to prove, though now it seems easy, but at that time, of course, you have to go back some 90 years. So the stationary case was proved by Lichner-Horwitz by a clever use of Élie-Cartan geometric formalism. In fact, Einstein's conjecture was stronger. He thought that the result should hold for any asymptotically Euclidean complete vacuum Einsteinian spacetime. The stronger conjecture has been proved to be wrong only some 50 years later in the 500 pages work of Christodoulou and Kleinerman in 1998. Though it was not complete, I think Einstein was a great man, as you know, so his conjecture has some truth in it anyway. It is that, but he didn't make any, so you know, Einstein was a real physicist. So his intuition was good. So he thought there should be no energy coming in for his conjecture to be true. And in fact, it has been proved to be true by Shen and Yao in their positive mass theorem, where they prove that if the mass is zero, then in fact it is the ideal mass is zero, then the Einstein spacetime Einstein conjecture is Minkowski. So that's fast enough to infinity faster than a Newtonian potential. Returning again to 1951, after my introduction by Leray, Einstein invited me to enter with him in his office. We were at his door. He asked me to explain to him my work. My English in the beginning of my stay in Princeton was not fluent, in spite of my studying it in Shakespeare's play at school for 10 years. Einstein told me to speak French, which he understood, but he will answer me in English because he had lost the practice of French. So that first time, I summarized in French my thesis on Einstein blackboard. Einstein listened with interest. Contrarily to what Pyle said in his book about Einstein, that Einstein was not interested, that I told him that Einstein was not interested in the Cauchy problem. I certainly never said that to Pyle. I perhaps said that Einstein was not looking for no working on the Cauchy problem. I certainly didn't say he was not interested in it. So that's, I'm happy to say, this I say often, you should never believe what someone says, someone else had said. So in this case, in fact, Einstein was very interested by results, and the fact that, in fact, they confirm what he had always thought to be true, propagation of gravitation with the speed of light, which he had himself said by in approximation solutions. And Einstein told, when I left, Einstein told me I would be welcome in his office, and any time I would feel like knocking at his door. So next time I should speak English, since now I had occasion to practice it. Einstein was right. I had no difficulty with English in our later interviews. It was too late for me to catch a good accent. But Einstein's accent was not perfect. Free access to Einstein's office was a great favor in those years. Einstein did not mingle much with other people at the Institute. He did not come to receptions, nor to the daily traditional tea in the common room. He did not come to seminars. It is true that in this period, in the early 50s, general relativity was rather dormant. And Lichnerowitz told me when I started working with him, general relativity is a mathematical subject. It's still a mathematical subject. There are still many open problems to work for mathematicians. But of course, it has become a physical, an astrophysical, cosmological subject. So, he didn't come to the daily traditional tea in the common room. He did not come to seminars. It is true that in this period, the early 50s, general relativity was rather dormant, I said. The subjects in the theoretical physics seminar, directed by Oppenheimer, who, however, himself had did some interest in general relativity, but all seminars were on quantum mechanics. The problem of quantizing the gravitational field wasn't even thought of. I have knocked sometimes at Einstein's door. I regret that I didn't do it more often. I've always been kindly welcomed as a young researcher, eager to learn from a great scientist, genial, but kind and sophisticated. Einstein looked like a very intelligent old man with nice white hair, cut not too long, not too short, quite appropriately dressed with pants and pullover and socks in his shoes, smiling with benevolence to the young woman I was then. In those years, Einstein was working on his last unified theory with his assistant, Brugha Kaufmann, a pleasant, hard-working woman of about my age who shared his office. She left the States after Einstein's death to live in a kibbutz. I brought to, though concentrated on unified theory, Einstein was still interested in classical general relativity and its open mathematical problems. I brought him the small book of Lichnerowitz, written in 1939, Problem globaux en mécanique relativiste, which I quoted before. In fact, it is his thesis, supervised by Gilles Darmois. In this book, Lichnerowitz constructs what he thinks to be a counterexample to the projecture I mentioned before. Einstein read the concerned section and pointed out that the constructed spacetime do not obey the asymptotic condition of no flow from infinity of gravitational energy assumed in his conjecture. He said no flow from gravitational energy with precise definition of what is gravitational energy, but I see this morning that you still use gravitational energy. So he said that that's not a counterexample to my conjecture. Another time, Einstein encouraged me to prove that his equations have no periodic solutions. In fact, Einstein himself had published a few years before a small article in some South American journal, which by chance I had read. In this paper, Einstein said to prove the existence of periodic solutions. This article contains a simple error, an error of sign, which I noticed. I said to Einstein with a small smile, "But you have proved there are periodic solutions." He understood my smile and said, "But this article was not quite correct." And I noticed it. An ordinary man would probably have been angry with me. On the opposite, Einstein after this showed me greater kindness. In my later visits, Einstein explained to me on his blackboard the non-symmetric theory he was then working on, its successes and its difficulties. He had very clear ideas of what he wanted. He wanted a theory which was strong enough, but not too strong enough to have a meaningful solution, not too strong to, So we discussed these equations. They are very complicated, as has been shown before. I wrote in the book by Eisenach, Non-Riemannian Geometry, and he signs me. Though I don't think this book was of real use to him, because he had himself found the way to come. Well, he didn't precisely have difficulties. He was a good man at computing, but too much is too much. So these equations are very complicated. In particular, you have to compute the first step in this non-Riemannian theory. It compute a connection if you want to generalize general relativity to a unified theory. So that in fact this non-symmetric Einstein large unified theory is a non-Riemannian geometry. But, well, I won't. So, I worked a bit on this last theory. In particular, I did some computation of the connection coefficients, not just computation. But it led to no theorem, I mean. So I just didn't do anything with it. In fact, myself, I was doubtful of the physical significance of the theory. Einstein, as you all know, wanted to find a theory which would contain everything. Even singularities would be the particles. It would be real. But in fact, in this time, the only fields which were known was gravity and electromagnetism. And for him, the symmetric part was gravity, and the non-symmetric part was the Maxwell field. But myself, I was banal level, surprised to see some of a potential with a field. But I know now, and the equations, in spite of some nice features, are very complicated. I know that now there is a new interpretation of this non-symmetric theory, and which makes it physically more sensible. But still, I look again at the equations that Deser and Thibault and Stanley Deser have worked a while on this with new interpretation. But so I was at a good look, but found again the equations really too complicated. So too difficult for me to study. I understood why in 1951 I preferred to pursue the mathematical work I had started at the Institute. It was rather trivial as a subject, but it was interesting mathematically, and apparently it has become some and I got some interest physically also. That is, I was trying to find, and I did, it was to find for Einstein equations in higher dimensional spacetimes properties analogous to the ones and had found for four-dimensional ones. You know that four-dimensional spacetime are very particular property with respect to higher dimensional ones, but it's why we live in them, by the way. But the problem is mathematically well posed and obtained results clear cut. So, in spite of my lack of enthusiasm for his unitary theory, Einstein has continued to be very kind to me, as an old man to the young woman I was then, but also as someone eager like him to understand something of the world we live in. Einstein was quite open-minded. He told me when he realized that I was not enthusiastic about his theory. So he told me one day, as I left his office, all that, you know, is perhaps the wrong direction. Some people say that Einstein believed in his theory. That's not true. He knew, but he was amusing himself, in fact. He liked to compute and find particular special properties of the complicated equations he had. So that's what he said. Well, I left Princeton earlier than I could because my husband and I, it was Lorraine, had two assistants, and he had chosen myself and my husband, Léonce Forest. So we were both offered the post of professors in Marseille. That was a rare opportunity at the time to have two posts in the same university, and also Marseille was rather tempting. Léonce Forest was a man from the south. Myself, I knew Marseille as a pleasant place, so we were tempted to accept, though we regretted to leave the institute earlier than we could. But Lorraine encouraged us to accept, and the director of Oppenheimer said kindly we could complete our stay later. So we left. I went to tell goodbye to Einstein. He was kind as usual and gave me his best wishes for your teaching job. I was rather disappointed at these wishes. I would have preferred best wishes for my future research. When I left his office, I regretted that I had not come more often. I thought I will do it next time, but when I went again to Princeton in 1955, Einstein was over. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this fascinating account.
So I'm ready to answer questions. If you have questions, I can answer.
Maybe them short questions, comments.
Did you ever hear from Einstein about his opinions? Did you ever hear from Einstein about his opinions about quantum mechanics or quantum theory?
Herman, I don't understand.
The question was whether you ever heard from Einstein about his opinion about quantum mechanics. Did you discuss with Einstein quantum mechanics?
No, I knew. Maybe, I don't know, but he was. Everybody knows what Einstein thought was quantum mechanics. And myself, when I was not a specialist. I had no opinion. I won't have discussed with him. No, I don't know. I have no occasion, as I remember, to discuss quantum mechanics.
Well, I think we should move on now. So let's thank Ah, Thibault, sorry.
Maybe you want to evoke the discussion you had with von Neumann about black holes, about the Schwarzschild solution.
I will be deaf. I need here.
Thibault wants to hear from you about your discussion with von Neumann about black holes.
Oh, yes. In fact, von Neumann was also at the Institute when I was there, and he was a much more public man than Einstein. Einstein, I think, at that time, didn't, as I said, he didn't. But von Neumann, he would come to receptions, you met him, well, he was younger also. So, von Neumann, I told him, I knew I was working on general relativity, and he told me, have you noticed that the boundary of Schwarzschild is not a singular submanifold? The metric is regular across it. Well, so you should look at that. But I didn't. Well, I did look at it later.
That's it.
But at the time I tried to prove that there was only one body. Because you have to prove that the only solution is spherically symmetric. That's Israel's theorem. So I had some work on what became Israel's theorem. Yeah.
Okay, so let's thank you once again.